talk about USA basketball. So the controversy continued, the issues continued between Steve Kerr and Jayson Tatum. USA basketball wins the gold. Um,
No
I
surprise.
think that's
Not
Serbia with an
expected.
surprised at all.
all-time Serbia with an all-time choke, by the
All-time
way.
choke by Serbia. Huge shout out to the French team. They played really well. You know, we saw the reemergence of Yabusele, former Celtic.
Yabusele
You
was
know,
awesome, dude. Get
um,
this man a
I
contract.
think I think he ends up in the NBA this year.
He
Definitely
should.
he should get a look from a team. He was balling, I think, and to see him dunk
You
over LeBron was a very satisfying look.
for
Um,
sure.
but ultimately, I think it comes down to Jayson Tatum didn't play in either game against Serbia. He didn't play in the group stage against Serbia, and then he didn't play in the semifinals against Serbia, where the USA basketball was down significantly, and they were able to rally back on the back of Steph Curry, who finally decided to shoot in the last 2 games of the entire Olympics when he was, I think, a combined like 4 for like 22 going into those games.
That
Um,
final like 3-minute stretch where he just nailed like 4 straight
in
three-pointers
both
was
games, he
some
in
of the
both games he
craziest shit
did
I've
it.
seen.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean,
That's
but
just like
that is
normal
that
stuff
is Steph
though. We've
Curry.
seen we've
But
seen the
But like
Warriors
and
down
I'm
15 and then up
yeah, I'm
4
talking more
in
about like the
2 minutes.
Olympic scene, the more the
For
like
sure.
Olympic scene. Like that's
um,
probably gonna be a memory for a long time.
Steve Kerr should never be allowed to coach USA basketball again.
yeah, I mean, it's just so the question comes down to is like, hey, I understand you might want to play matchups, but you have an first team All NBA player, the only
Only
actual
one.
first
Only
team,
one.
the only first team All NBA player that is from the United States, legitimately was on your team and you sat him on the bench. I understand that his team beat your team by 80 something points in the regular season. And I understand that hurts and that's embarrassing. But to like kind of disrespect a player who does not deserve the level of disrespect that he got is embarrassing not only for the player, but it's embarrassing for the brand of basketball. Um, Jayson Tatum is just as talented as any other player on that team, if not more than some of those players. And when you saw guys who were struggling, like for a long time, Embiid was struggling and he was getting minutes. Now, no disrespect to the guys who are playing. And I actually would have the same conversation about Tyrese Halliburton. Now, Tyrese is not at the level of Jayson Tatum,
Not even
but these
close.
are like high level professional NBA athletes that like you're telling me you can't figure out a way to get them a couple minutes every game. Um, so I just think, yeah, Steve Kerr should definitely not be the coach. Greg Popovich would have never allowed this to happen. Jayson Tatum was one of the stars of the 2021 Olympic gold medal team. He was, I believe, second in points, first in rebounds, and first in assists during that run. Um, so it's yeah, and I guess the chat's saying the problem is USA basketball let the player run the team, not the coach. No, I think Steve Kerr is a strong enough minded individual that he's not going to let LeBron James dictate what happens. LeBron's going to be out there. There's no doubt
Definitely
about
not.
that. Nobody's saying that LeBron's doesn't deserve to play. But the fact that you literally are just going to sit Jayson Tatum for 2 complete games during this run is wildly disrespectful, and the fact that they didn't want to call on Jaylen Brown. I mean, the Celtics, they were motivated last year. I think they're going to be even more motivated this year. Um, the Celtics players looked happy to win their gold medal, but they're focused on the next championship. So LeBron and Steph can go back to their battling for a wild card spot in the NBA. Embiid can go back to his team that chokes, and then we can just move on. You know, Kevin Durant's getting older. Yeah, he can still shoot, but he can also get wiped in the first round of the playoffs. Like it's sad that's what it's come down to, that we have to just like pick and choose. But yeah, it's wildly disrespectful for Tatum, and people are like, oh well, he wasn't shooting well. Yeah, but because it's tough to shoot well when you don't get the opportunity, you don't get to go into a rhythm. You know
Steph
who
Curry
wasn't
wasn't
shooting
shooting
well?
well.
Steph Curry wasn't, but then he kept playing every single game and started shooting well towards the end. Funny how that works. A guy who just played the most games in the NBA last year was a little tired maybe to start the Olympic playoff, the Olympic run. That's kind of crazy. I can't imagine a guy who just won an NBA championship would be tired. So yeah,
Um,
those are my thoughts.
just to kind of speak on it, this is more as like the Olympic setup as a whole. Um, obviously, you kind of briefly spoke about Embiid. I mean that's arguably some of the worst play I've seen out of Embiid, and kind of tweeted out the more I watch him, the more I hate him.
Oh yeah,
Or hate's a strong word, dislike him.
I hate him.
I mean, the amount of offensive, I'm gonna highlight kind of the Serbia game. The amount of offensive rebounds he was just, or defensive rebounds he wasn't going for, and Serbia just getting all those offensive rebounds. Some of their guards getting them. And I get you're on Jokic, the best player in the NBA, arguably. But so are you. So some people would say you're one of the best players in the NBA too.
Former
You
MVP.
know, the it just seemed he was very lackadaisical out there. And as a whole, this USA team has so many different looks. You can go a big look where a guy like Tatum can play the 2, 3, or 4. So you could have a lineup that consists of like Devin Booker at the 1, Tatum at the 2, LeBron at the 3, KD at the 4, and then you have Bam,
AD.
yeah, exactly, AD, Bam, and Embiid at the 5. Or if you want to go big, you can, or small, you can go Steph, D Book, Tatum, LeBron, AD, something like that. Just the amount of options this team had. I'm surprised they didn't, use Tatum and some of these other guys, as you said, kind of like a Halliburton. But there was just a lot of questions or a lot of concerns that I saw from this team, Team USA, and a team that was favored by like 15 points in every game almost. This is a team that should have won gold. They did win gold, but they almost didn't. They almost had to play for bronze.
Yeah, this team didn't play to their potential at all.
And to have 3 coaches that kind of rival Boston as a whole and some of these other teams was I'm curious. I don't know who makes the coaching decisions or who makes the coaching roster. Like I don't know
USA
who.
Basketball, they select the coaches, and
Okay.
for a long time
Yeah.
it was Krzyzewski, who great actually. A college coach is great because Krzyzewski,
No biases.
super great coach. Nobody's doubting that. But yeah, he's not in the NBA. He doesn't have like, hey, this is like Steph was playing. Steve Kerr's not playing Steph. And to Steph's credit, he should play. He is one of maybe the greatest like 3-point shooter to ever play the game of basketball, right? But like I had problems with like I get like Devin Booker and I get Ant Edwards are both good players, but like the fact that they command significantly more time than Jayson Tatum, who was all NBA, who was better than both of those guys last year, it's wild to me. And yeah, there are people saying like, oh, Derek White shouldn't be getting the minutes. No, Derek White should be getting minutes too. So should Drew Holiday. I think every player should have gotten minutes. Like
If you're on the USA roster at some point, you should get minutes.
And they granted they all played, but they should get minutes in every game. And the reason Embiid is being lackadaisical or not trying is because he doesn't get called his fouls called in the Olympics. They don't call that BS stuff when he just like winds his way in there and throws the ball up and goes, I got fouled. It's like, no, you didn't, dude. You're 10 times bigger than this person. How can they foul you? Yeah, but Hammer, I get that. I get people are viewed in certain positions. The NBA doesn't have positions anymore. The NBA hasn't had positions for a long time.
Tatum can play any position.
Any single one of those guys can run the point legitimately.
You've seen LeBron run the point,
big guys can run the point too. Now, granted, I don't think Victor I want Embiid running the point, but like Jokic runs the point for his team half the time. Like Tyrese Halliburton is arguably the best passer on that team. Like, I mean, that guy was an assist machine last year. You're telling me you put him out there with some of the best shooters in the league and they're not going to cook? Of course they will.
I have something to say about that.
Yeah.
Tatum has the best assist to turnover ratio from all of them. Like, it's just like, I don't know. That was inexcusable. Yeah. Like ShawnOh was saying, he could play the 1, he could play the 5. Like, there's no grouping where it's like, oh, he just doesn't fit this lineup, because he could play any position well. Like if you go small, he could be your 5. If you go big, he could be your 2. But that is the biggest issue with the Olympic basketball this year. But Joel Embiid shouldn't even been on the team. The dude's not American.
You mean the guy born in Cameroon?
Right. Like that's where I don't know when that changed, but I think you need to just be born in this country to play for this country.
I mean, there are different rules in different countries, but like I think part of the reason he qualifies for the US is he's lived in this country long enough. That's what the qualification is. But like I get what you're saying. And that's why he was getting booed in France. Because like they were like, this is ridiculous. Actually, I think he could claim French citizenship as well.
Absolutely. He played for France before.
So I think that's kind of where that is. I don't know.
The other thing is also like obviously, USA is gonna be favored in basketball. Obviously, we have the greatest league.
With the
But
greatest players.
when you look at all these other countries, a lot of these guys, either former NBA or were are going to play their heart out. At the end of the day, they're representing their country, and they're trying to fight for some sort of spot in some of these leagues. And just kind of a guy like I'm gonna say Embiid again. Just to go out there and not really give it all. You know, is
Yeah.
it's not a good look in my eyes.
They called themselves
but
the Avengers. What were they avenging? Like you guys
we're
were
favored by like 20 points
But they
every
also
game.
won the last
you were
Olympics.
clowns. Yeah, you were
So like,
clowns.
if you lost the last Olympics, maybe. I get they lost
Right.
what, the last like FIBA World Cup. It's like,
Who
all right,
cares about
dude.
the
Like,
World Cup, though?
dude, like honestly, nobody cares about these international basketball games. Respectfully, like, I don't know. It is what if the U.S. loses when they play their best team, it should be the biggest embarrassment ever.
Yeah,
Like
sure.
there can be no big. Now, granted, if you put out some like budget squad, all right, you're gonna lose. Like teams are playing their best players. Like Germany and France are no slouch in terms of like what they produce for NBA talent. But yeah, there's no way the NBA or the USA basketball is ever gonna be like should be competed against.